Today we are chatting with Ben Andrews. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So I read a little bit about your background and I have a lot of questions, but let's just start with where I love to start, which is your introduction to running. So did you grow up with a family of runners? Like, how did that come into your life?
My dad was a really good runner. He was a freshman, he was going to run to the state meet, and his coach said, hey, we've got to have the juniors and seniors run at the state meet. So he quit, and that was the end of his running career.
Oh, wow.
But he was a really, really good runner. He was a freshman the same year that Prefontaine was a freshman, so who knows. But my sixth grade summer, going into my sixth grade year, I had an aunt that took me on a run. We were visiting their family. And I lasted a mile, and the next day I lasted 3 miles, and then Saturday there was a 4th of July run, and I did my first 10K.
Oh, wow.
And then that following year, we had a teacher, excuse me, who he said, we're not doing PE, I've got this. And he took us out on a 2-mile run every single day throughout the neighborhood, and I was hooked from that moment.
I mean, that must have been fun just leaving the school grounds, like, you know, at that age.
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. I would leave stuff outside of my house and pick it up during the run and, you know,
Nice.
give fruit roll-ups to my buddies. I was a hero.
Where was this town?
Portland, Oregon.
All right. So a lot of runners. It's not.
Feels a little bit more like Detroit these days, but it's not that bad.
Okay. Detroit's getting better. I think Portland's getting worse.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay, so when did you realize that not only you enjoyed running, but that maybe this was something you were talented at?
That was 7th grade. I had a cross-country course throughout our school, again, during PE. And my best friend broke the record, and I thought, next year I'm gonna beat him. And I destroyed the school record by like 9 seconds. It was about a 1,400-meter loop. And that was the day I thought, okay. I had a teacher who thoroughly disliked me, and I had an equally disdain for him. And he came up to me and said, Ben, I hate having you in class. I hate having you in class, but you run like a deer, and I could watch you run all day long. And when I got that affirmation from someone who I knew didn't enjoy me, I thought, okay, this is something that could happen long term.
Wow. Did it change your feelings towards them at all? Were you like, oh, they're all right now?
Mr. Estes. Yeah.
Yeah, see, it sticks. That's the.
I'm a words of affirmation guy anyway, and I think that's the day it hit me that, you know what? He's okay. He likes me. He believes in me. I guess I'm going to be all right.
I mean, to a certain point, he's a dick, though, because you still had to go to class.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so you crush this time, and then in high school, what happens? You just keep running?
In high school, I was a big basketball player, so that was my dream. I was being recruited pretty good by a lot of schools, and my coach was a big alcoholic, and we had a 5-hour drive to one tournament, and I said, you know, I'm going to ride with my family because you put a few back. And he grabbed me and threw me in his chair, and we had a little bit of a dust up. And so I quit basketball. And he said, you're never going to amount to anything athletically. So I went out I ran track, of course, but that was the day I thought, I don't have another option if I want to go to college and do a sport. And so my junior year, I was ranked 11th out of the 12 runners at the state meet. The number 1 and 2 runners in the state meet were the number 2 and 3 runners in the nation. So everyone was at this race. Of course, it's Oregon. Employee number 3 at Nike, Jeff Hollister, his son was in the race. And I thought, I just want to have my parents hear our name over the loudspeaker. So I ran to the front so they could hear my name, and Andrews of Park Rose is the leader. I wonder if I could do it again. I ended up getting 2nd place. I lost by 100th of a second. I improved 14 seconds that day. 14-second PR at the state meet. And Bill Dellinger came up to me and he said, who the hell are you? And I said, well, who the hell are you? And we had this awesome conversation, and I told him I had PR'd 14 seconds. He said, I don't believe it. I said, that's the case. He said, well, if that's the case, I'll give you a full ride scholarship to run track. And I said, well, I'm a basketball player. I want to go to college and play basketball. He put his hand on my shoulder and he said, Ben, you might have woke up a basketball player, but you're going to bed tonight as a runner. I'll be in touch. And
I mean,
2 weeks later, I got a full ride scholarship.
Whoa.
It must have been, are you like 4 foot tall? And they're like, basketball's not going to happen?
Yeah. No, I was 6 foot tall, but I think he just saw something in me like all good mentors do. He saw something in me I didn't see in myself.
Yeah, I mean, so far you're not really building up your public school out there in Portland. You got Estes telling you you're crap in class. You got another one drinking on the bus and getting you off the basketball team. Like, is there any positive influence in high school?
But now you know why we have a fentanyl problem out here.
It's because the teachers are mean to the kids.
We're driven to drugs. Yeah.
So you get this ride, you go out there, and track is life at this point?
Yeah, it's everything. But before I had to go back to high school for a 5th year, my coach threw me and all of our starters. We were ranked 8th on the West Coast in basketball. So my sophomore and junior year, my coach had put us in fundamental classes, remedial classes, so we didn't have any homework. So I went back to high school for a 5th year because I didn't qualify. And I'd graduated, but I didn't have the credits to go to a D1 school. So I went back to high school. That year I got in a ton of trouble. I was arrested. I was facing a 5 to 15-year prison sentence. And at that point, that's when running just that was the focus. And I knew that was the only thing I could look forward to as I was fighting for my life. And it was...
What are we getting
one thing
in
that got me through.
What are we getting in trouble for?
I had another coach who was messing around with a girl. He was 44, she was 15, and he said, "Hey, you know, I think this girl really likes you." And so we ended up getting together, making out. That was it. Made out, you know, every other day. He gave me a key to a locker room, and then my counselor claimed that she had said that I did unwanted sexual advances, which that wasn't the case at all. She ended up apologizing, sending me letters, sending me notes, but my coach, because he was caught up in this affair with her, she was showing up at his house, and he said, "I got to deflect this." And so that's what happened. He was my track coach. He was my...
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was...
Yeah,
bizarre.
you're really painting an interesting picture of high school in your town.
Yeah. Park Rose High School, yeah. Where all your dreams can come true.
Do you still go to reunions?
You know, I was the commencement speaker a couple years ago at their graduation. So that was...
That's interesting.
That was something, I'll tell you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like, it's weird.
You know,
Just going back to, you know, your high school is probably an emotional and all the feelings that you have, it's confusing anyway. And also the way that we rewrite history and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that must have been heavy going back and giving a commencement speech at a school that like had like a ton of like, I don't even know what I would do like in that situation.
Yeah. For me, it was a lot of redemption. After I got out of high school my 5th year, they had a sweep of school. I mean, administrators, teachers, they just did a clean sweep and got rid of a bunch of bad people, which was great. Yeah, going back when they called me and said, "Hey, we're interested in having you come speak at our commencement speech," I thought, wow, this is a full circle here. But I did it, and it was great. And it got me believing in my own story again.
That's
just
great.
That almost like a Shawshank Redemption. You know, you go back to the place where you need to be redeemed when you didn't do anything wrong. You were there against your will. So it was good for me. It's good healing.
I mean, Andy Dufresne ended up on a beach, but that's nice too.
That's true. That's true. I had no red in my life either. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting. And what year was that you went back?
That was in 1992.
Okay. Wow. All right. So some things had changed between being in high school there, obviously, and then coming back in 1992 to do it. What was the reason the school wanted you back to inspire the kids?
I'm sorry, I came back and graduated in 1992,
Okay.
went back in 2006 to do the commencement speech. I had volunteered with the track program, the track team, and just all the kids, I inspired them. And all of the, they had a state representative, a local politician, and a local news person, and all of these kids on the track team and other sports that I had just got on them to, hey, you got to come out and do this sport because it's a team sport. You need people around you, but you're going to become as good as you want to become. So I had baseball players, I had, soccer players coming out, and they just said, this is the guy that's inspiring us every day. We don't want the politicians. We want Ben.
Yeah. I mean, politicians kind of suck anyway. Wait, you're not in politics now, are you?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
All right.
Okay, so you have all of these elderly, influential people in your life that aren't exactly showcasing positive anything. Like, was there anyone in your life, your parents or family members or friends, that were keeping you going and feeling positive? Because, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, you've got an alcoholic coach, you've got a track and field coach who's doing stuff that's wrong. Like, how did you stay, like, steady moving forward?
Yeah, great question. Going through something like that, you get to redefine your circle, your relay team for life, if you will. My mom and dad, my brother were incredibly instrumental. My dad would wake me up before he went to go make cans in the morning and say, Ben, I love you. I love you. There's nothing anyone can say about you that is going to change my love for you. My mom, when I went to bed, she would come in and give me one last kiss goodnight. Ben, in 1 year, everything is going to be better. You have to believe that. And I love you and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. And my brother, he would walk through the halls with me. He was only a sophomore now. And I was the big man on campus anyway the year before, and now everyone knew me. And for not all the right reasons, right? You're guilty as charged, but I got to really see who was going to stand by me. And to this day, I have a massive circle, but my net is really small. I have several people in my life that I choose to stand next to me. I have a board of directors. I call it the 5 circles of life. You got spiritual, personal, family, business, financial. So I have a board member in each of those circles, and every quarter I switch them out, but we get on the phone every Friday and talk and make sure everything's going well in the right direction. So it's a great lesson at 18 years old that you've got to create your circle and not just blindly go with the flow.
I like that. Okay, so what happens after high school? After your 5th year?
After high school, I'm sorry, my 5th year, is that what you said?
Like after your 5th year, like did you go and take on the scholarship?
Yeah. I did. Yeah, I went to Oregon. It was unbelievable. It was magical. And I was having a hard time one day, and Dillinger asked what was going on, and I just broke down and told him everything. And he pretty much just cut the workout short and said, everyone, I want you to go on a 10-mile run. And he and I just walked around Lane 8 at Hayward Field for 3.5 hours.
Wow.
And I just told him everything. And he shared with me a very, very famous Oregon Duck who had gone through something similar. And he connected us. We talked. The guy actually drove down the next day, and we went on a 5-mile run together and just said, hey, man, you're not alone. This happens. But it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to it. And Dillinger really, I mean, of course he coached me, but he spent a lot more time with me as a person than he did the athlete. And a lot of times that pissed me off because I thought, well, shoot, I've run 342. I'm the top guy in our conference. I'm by far our best miler. Why are you not talking to me about race strategy and all of that? And he just said, well, I'm your coach, and this is what you need right now. It's not that. And he had me do a thing he called Life Steady, where he hooked me up with a university archivist, and I just this amazing building with these massive rafters, and I would go in and I would sort all these photos, and it was just trying to teach me that history changes if you change. But if you stay here, it's just this black and white photo from 1923. You have to evolve. You have to lean into your unique gifts and be better and do better. And that led me to, I had this one picture I was looking at was Bill Bowerman and Prefontaine, and the archivist came over and he said, I see you spending a lot of time on these track and field photos. I said, oh yeah, I love track and field. I'm on the track team. This is a great photo. And he said, well, why don't I just give this one to you and you can call Bill and Barbara and get it signed. And so I did, and that started every other Wednesday I would go up to their house, do my easy run, have lunch with them, and just talk about Nike, farming, Prefontaine. The people that would come through when I was at lunch was a who's who of track and field. Arthur Lydiard, Harry Jerome, everybody came through. And I'm just this goofy 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kid, so ignorant to know who's I'm in the presence of. It was incredible experience.
Yeah,
far beyond track and field.
That sounds insane. I think of it like if you're into music and you're at one of those stores where all the musicians stop by and come through, or you're into skateboarding and all the pros come in and do all that stuff.
What stories can you tell us?
Yeah,
one of the biggest ones was him and Bill Bowerman had a big rift. Bill Dellinger had created a shoe that he took to Nike, and they were working on this thing called Nike Air, so they weren't interested in it. And so he went to Adidas, and Adidas bought it, and that moment, Bowerman just cut him off. And so, I come over, and he's like, I'm not really into these Oregon boys anymore, you all sold me out. Anyway, one day they're talking about Bill, kind of not wonderfully, about Bill Dellinger, my coach. And this is the guy who waited for me for a fifth year, is coaching me, not the athlete. And I cut Bill off. And I said, you're wrong, Bill, because this, and this. And it was just silence. And Barbara's in the corner. She says, well, God damn it. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? And I said, well, Bill, what I meant to say was, he says, God damn it, you can have your own opinion. That doesn't mean you're right, But it was just the tail end of that was, that doesn't mean you're right. You can have your opinion. It doesn't mean you're right. But in that moment, truly, our relationship grew because he knew I wasn't there just to kiss his ass. I was there, and I had my own ideas, and trying to think of a famous David Bedford, famous 5K guy. He was at their house one day, and it was just like this. Mm-hmm. Oh, Bill Bowerman, you're great. Everything you say, I'm going to laugh at. Everything you say, I'm going to agree with. And he just said, why don't you just go kiss someone else's ass? I've got too much on mine. I was like, whoa. Many other athletes too, kind of the same thing. And he would tell them that. He was just like, I've had enough of this conversation. You can leave. So one of the last shoes he made, I don't know if I have it. I don't have it in here, but one of the last shoes he made was a mold of my foot. And it was in his little lab in Eugene. Incredible little shoe that got me to a PR at one point.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, first of all, what's your thoughts on Nike today? I'm just curious. Are you a huge Nike fan?
Well, it's in my backyard, and I ran for Alberto. I ran with the Oregon Project at its beginning, and I've seen a different Alberto than has come out on the news. I've got to see the person, and what his. It's kind of interesting, what I was accused of and what he's accused of is a little different, but very, very similar. And these intersecting paths in life. It's kind of fascinating, but I think they've become this behemoth that is, we're going to cut your neck off just because you're in front of us, which isn't always a good place to be. I think they do a lot of good for the sport. Obviously, I mean, if it wasn't for Nike, we might be on the Cornhole Championship channel, And I don't understand why cornhole gets more publicity than track and field, honestly, on ESPN. But it shows you where our sport is, and it also shows you how much Nike puts into it.
I mean, what do you think?
I've had
when we talk about the track and field and the coverage. I'm gonna while you're there, I'm gonna cut in here, and people are probably like, "Let him talk about Nike." But anyway, I think the track and field thing is that the athlete window for the events, it's so short that it's really tough to become a fan of. Like, your best hope is that somebody that you love on the track decides to start going long and then goes into marathon or into half marathon and into the events that I feel like they're the sponsors and the audience understands. Like, not all of us understand what it's like to run a 1600 on the track, or what it's like to do steeplechase or anything like that. And all of us though who are amateurs understand what it is to run a half marathon or marathon. But just the lifespan of track athletes is what? College, maybe a little bit afterwards, and hitting the Diamond League and some of the championships. But other than that, it's a very short career, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the athletes become, I've been around every baseball, basketball, football. I've been around every type of professional athlete. I've hung out with Tiger Woods and Kobe Bryant. They are much more approachable than a track and field star. And I think it's because this bubble is so small and their star is so big that there's this inflated ego. And that's not true with all athletes. Of course, there's, the Gail Davers was one of the ones who was always taking time for photos, always. But it's, you got security around. Well, for what? Because someone's going to rub some testosterone on them. It's a totally different sport. And, the warming down, someone just ran a 144 800 and you can 13 seconds later, you want to interview them. Well, it's going to be a shitty interview because they can't breathe. Yeah. And so let alone collect their thoughts, And it's just such a goofy.
Like when you
go for it. Yeah.
When you play a game like even cornhole, you could talk about getting in the zone and nailing it, and it's just a standout day. When you talk to someone, you'd be like, "What was the difference between running 0.2 of a second faster than you ran last week?" There's not a real exciting story there to follow up. I ran a little bit faster.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I became fans of the shoe, because there's more. Like what's happening with shoes is improving athletes more so than you can look at it today in like the marathon. Clearly the Vaporfly and the super shoes have changed, and we're seeing records fall, breaking records. People are recovering faster. You're seeing and we don't let technology into running, but you're seeing the little bit of technology that we're allowing into running really changing up some of the long-held, records.
Right. I have a friend that just texted me last week an app where I can put in my times and put in the new shoe, and I'm better than I was. My legend is growing.
That's awesome.
Now I'm a 334 guy. I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
I mean, any given Sunday, right? All right. I think people will murder us if we don't go back to the Alberto Salazar, because he is so controversial now. And we are hearing, we read Kara's book. We, are hearing like from Steve Magnus. That's the narrative that we're getting now. You were with him closely, and I don't want necessarily put you on the spot to be his defense, but clearly you feel like there is levels or nuances going on. So, you know, you were in the project. What's your take on that whole situation?
Well, it's interesting. I was Adam and Kara's realtor when they moved to Portland and when they moved away. And so when they moved away, Adam called me and he said, "Hey, can you come over? You know, we're thinking about selling our house." I'm like, "Yeah, you know, when's a good time?" He's like, "You know, how's this afternoon look?" Well, people don't do that. Something's up, you know. And I went over to their house and they were very, you know, stoic. But you got to remember the Alberto that I'm going to defend for a moment was the Alberto that was brand new to the Oregon project. The whole thing was brand new. And with success comes demons, you know, and as the project and of course his athlete's success grew, do you feel as though you're invincible and you can do anything? I'm not saying that's the case with him, but I know that's the case with some people. There's a guy named Donald Trump that said you can grab him by the whatever, you know. That's because he thinks he's untouchable because he's so big. The Alberto I knew was also very, you know, my best workout I ever had, my best mile I ever had was with Alberto in the rain, 354, and it was just the two of us because he was good about getting you ready in your head. And I think that's why a lot of his athletes had so much success, whether they were on anything or not. No one tested positive. But he could get you so sharp in your head that you could walk out on the track and say, no one is going to touch me. No one.
How did he
I remember
do that?
doing this workout one day. What's that?
How did he do that? Like, because obviously that's the key. If you can figure out how to get somebody to walk out on the track with the full confidence that they can crush. And it's funny because you see in the fallout from Salazar, you do see, like, I don't know if it's that just naturally Galen would start slowing down a little bit or, you know, some of the other athletes would start falling off a little bit just because that's the sport. You know, you have your peak time in it. But it does seem like since he left, you know, you could attribute two things. You could say, yeah, he was the greatest coach and got these people ready to go. Or you could say possibly they were doping and then they're losing. Salazar would leave them in a spot where their performance would diminish because of that. So, you know, that's I think the question that's on everybody's mind is how much of it's coaching, how much of it is that. But I'm mostly curious in what you say is like getting somebody mentally on the track. How did he achieve that?
Well, I think anyone, you know, like Bill Dellinger ran a 3:43 1500. Amazing in his time, but not, you know, earth-shattering today. Alberto was coaching people that had never run faster than he did. Of course, Galen ended up running faster, but I remember doing a workout one time, and he said, "Well, you're not done yet." And I said, "Well, the workout was 20 times a 400 at 60 with 2-minute rest. I did it." He goes, "But there's things that come up in races where you have to keep going, and I need 5 more." I'm like, I can't do 1 more. He goes, "Okay, then just quit." And he walked off the track, and I said, whoa, Alberto. And he said, "Are you going to finish the workout?" And I said, "Why? I didn't know what the workout was." He goes, "Well, that's what life is. You don't know what's coming. Get out here. Let's go 5 more." And I ended up doing 6 more just to, I'm going to one-up you. You told me to do 5 more. I'll do 6. And I remember one time there was a workout where I had to do 10 times a quarter at 55 with a 4-minute rest. And I you know, it was 8, 9, 10 were like 55, 56, 58. And, you know, what a workout. He goes, "We're not done yet. You hit 55 on number 8. So it's not 55 point, it's 55. You're not done yet." So those little things. And then, you know, I remember one time I was telling him I wasn't going to do the workout. And he said, "Well, Ben, you know, be given your last rites and then tell me you're tired. You know, because he had pushed himself so far that he was given last rites. And how do you compete with that emotionally to say, okay, I guess I'm not done yet? I remember doing a workout with our strength coach one time, and I'm doing push-ups, and he walks by and he goes, how many push-ups can you do? I'm like, I think I can knock out 50. And he goes, all right, let's see it. So I knock out 50, and he goes, wow, that's impressive. I didn't think you could do that. And I said, well, thanks, coach. He's walking off. I said, how many do you think you can do? And he turns around and goes, I was hoping you'd ask. Let's see what I can do. So he gets to 44, and he's struggling. The 44 to 50 took him probably 2 minutes. And number 50 took him about 30 seconds. He's shaking, and he looks up at me, and he says, this would only tie you, Ben. And he just knocked out another 50. And it was all political theater, and he did 100 push-ups. It was like, I am the strongest guy in the room mentally. You're not going to, just when you see that, when you're around that, you believe that you are more and you can do more and be more.
So maybe David Goggins would be a good coach.
F, right? Yeah.
I love it. Hey, that's really interesting. Now, I guess, I'll ask a question that you probably won't be able to answer. But when you were there, did you ever feel like you were in a situation that would validate any of the accusations against him?
No, I asked him one day, I said, hey, coach, what else can I do? Because I was at, 340 at the time, 1,500. And he goes, well, you can run more and lose a little bit of weight. And I said, well, how much more? And he goes, well, don't do it hard, do it easy. So add a mile or two to your morning run. And of course, a couple weeks later, I've dropped another pound and a half. And I think, coach, what else can I do? Well, 10% more. Let's add some more to your morning run and Taco Bell twice a week now instead of 3. And I was like, one day I was like, coach, come on. There's got to be something else I can do. And keep in mind, I was one of the fringe Oregon Project people. I wasn't, getting gobs of money or anything from them. I was just a guy. I was a hanger-on almost. And I don't know. It was just one of these almost asking for permission to what else is out there that I can do?
Like you're like, give me the drugs.
Yeah. My right ass cheek is right in front of you, Yeah. And he said, Ben, you just got to train harder. And I don't know, I was the perfect person in that scenario to do it because I was the fringe runner to say, well, maybe we can test some stuff on this kid, or this kid's got deer in headlights because I'm Alberto Salazar. He'll do anything I say. But it was never even brought up. And I almost asked permission for it because I wanted to get there.
That's so interesting to me. I think that you talked about sort of the attitude of the top track stars and that they're not approachable. And you talk about the pressure for that 1/10 of a second, that just getting a little extra squeezed out. And, I know from being an amateur that, hey, I will pay $250, $300 something to have a shoe that makes me feel like I could go a little faster on race day. I would imagine that when you're living and trying to become a pro athlete, the temptation, the desire to have that edge, to have anything, and maybe even the justification to be like, well, probably other people are doing it. I need to be able to do it at the top level. I need that extra edge. How much do you think you can talk for yourself, but also like in the general sport at that level, how much of a temptation is the shortcut? Or because I'm like, you could give me all the steroids in the world, I'm not breaking for 4 minutes and then mile. I don't, it just wouldn't happen. So it'd be a waste on me. But sure. At that level though, like when you're talking,
you look good doing it though.
That would be good. But if you're talking 1% difference in my performance versus your performance as a professional at that level, it's a big difference. So
Yeah.
what is that temptation on the athlete?
Oh, it's there. Because it's, when you go out to lunch and with your running friends, you don't talk about running at all, right? And then you go run when you go to lunch, all you do is talk about running. When you're out on your run, you don't talk about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything but running. And I remember several times, not baiting people, but just bringing something up like, hey, what do you think of Daniel Coleman? Do you think he's dirty? Oh, yeah, he's dirty. Well, wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't you do that to run 720? And just like you could see the eyes start to shudder, like, I guess I would if I knew how or if I knew who. But you could tell just by asking the people who would and who wouldn't. There's the whole, everyone else is doing it, so now it's even, right? You look at Lance Armstrong. I got to spend some time with him, and total prick, by the way. But
Hi, Lance.
total prick. Yeah. But the reason he was such a prick is he was so dialed. And that's what I wanted to bring full circle. The guy was dirty, but so dialed. But dialed on every aspect of it. And the people who are not that committed, clean, they'll end up doing too much EPO or whatever they're doing and get blood clot and die anyway. Look at FloJo. Her career was so short because she was so juiced up. She couldn't run without her heart rate going to 180. And but you
Mine
look at a
goes to
guy like
180
Lance.
without drugs.
You look at Lance, and I remember being around him, and just he was so methodical, and to the point where I thought, well, even if he's dirty, he's doing it better than anybody because, it's portion control. I'm going to pour out just a little bit of water because I'm only going to do 15 ounces and not 15.2. Just unbelievable. But that's the focus you have to have. And if you're not ready to do that,
Well, I think about athletes like that, and obviously I watched the Jordan special where you see Jordan going, and from a spectator and a fan of the sport, when Jordan was playing, he seemed like the greatest, nicest guy in the world. From watching that thing, you realize that he was like a man on a mission to win a championship. And if you were in his way, if you were a teammate that wasn't going to help him get there, he was like, fuck you, get the hell out of my face.
right.
You got to do everything that I'm doing because we're going to win this thing. And I do feel like I'm definitely not excusing Lance for his indiscretions, but you can understand somebody who has such a mission that they're like, I am going to do whatever it takes to reach this goal I've set for myself. And it is tough because even as a fan, you look at the sport and you go, like, I don't watch national football and not think that those guys aren't probably taking steroids.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they're gigantic. But and they can.
Do you remember Steve Largent for the Seahawks?
Yeah.
Like he was a 175-pound wide receiver. He wouldn't be a kicker today.
No.
It's this guy's and to go out there and they got to be on coke too. To go out there and know that the other guy's all juiced up. There's no way you're doing that with the right mind. There's no way.
But also the punishing effect. Like, here's the one thing: when you run track or you run marathons, you beat up your body yourself, but you're not taking like those guys are taking hits. Those guys every Sunday and practice and like I'm surprised like they even live as long as they live. Like it's just insane. But
yeah,
I don't know, man.
Those guys. I was a kicker in high school. I kicked for the football team, and then one spring I kicked, and I did pretty good. I thought, you know what? After college, I'm gonna try out for the Seahawks. I can kick a 40, 50-yard field goal. So I go up to Seattle, I do the tryout, and it was a 3-day deal. The first day, like, all right, we'll see you tomorrow. And they're tapping other guys like, thank you, good luck. So the second day, I'm like, I'm 9 guys away from making this frickin' NFL team. But to see those guys, they could put their knee behind their, like the kickers were contortionists.
Yeah.
But the like hearing the hitting from soft days was crazy. But I will tell you that second day, they have you stand with your left foot or right foot, whatever foot you are, and just one kick, 45 yards. And I said, well, 40? No, I was going all out yesterday. And the guy said, oh, well, I don't know how the hell you made it through today because
Oh, wow.
good luck, get out of here. But those guys are at such another level in the discipline. And you look at, the kickers, the linemen, they know their 7 steps. That's all they have to do. The center, he's got 1 and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. And it's the same as track and field, shot putter, javelin, whatever the event is, whatever the discipline is. You are so focused on that finite piece of your art that no one else can truly, truly appreciate it. I think that's the other problem of track and field per se versus running. You go out and you run a 5K, 10K half marathon, anyone can attempt that, and you have this admiration and respect for someone that does it. And it doesn't matter how fast they do it. It just matters. Like, I've run 1 marathon and it kicked my ass. I have more respect for my neighbor that ran a marathon than I do someone else that ran a 4-minute mile.
Wow.
Because I know what it takes. And the 4-minute mile thing, there's a finite amount of people that can do that. But to do that, and in my world, when I did it, everything had to align. The sleep, the wind, the weather, the pacer, everything. And to be a single mom or a dad or anybody trying to go out and carve time out for yourself to go train for that, I just have the utmost respect for it because it's for you. And that's the thing that people don't do anymore. They don't take time out for themselves to do anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you listed a bunch of well-known athletes that you've worked with. Talk to us about that. What were you doing with them?
Kobe Bryant, I was a junior in college, and he was a freshman with the Lakers. The Lakers were my team. I was a Magic Johnson guy growing up. And I'm in Portland finishing up Christmas break, and they walk into this athletic club. It's the whole Laker team. I'm like, oh, my God, this is the Lakers. And I'm a basketball guy. And Kobe walks by, and he just kind of, like, stares at me more than anybody else. I'm kind of looking at myself like, what the hell do I have on? And the whole team, and he turns back around and goes, hey, are you a college athlete? And I said, yeah. He goes, hey, man, are you going to be here? And I said, yeah. I said, okay. So it comes back up, like 10 minutes later, they're all downstairs at the weight room. Comes up and goes, hey, I'm going to shoot 500 shots. Can you rebound for me? We can talk about what it's like to be a college athlete. Sure. So we get, like, he's got a coach over there, like 1 of 2, 2 of 3, 3 of 5, just keeping stats on his shots. And I'm passing the ball about 75 shots in. He just slams the ball, and it goes up to the ceiling. He says, damn it, you got to pass the ball harder. I said, dude, I'm a runner. Like, calm down. But you could see that switch of that, what became the Mamba mentality. And he just stopped, and he said, hey, man, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I don't like the ball coming at me like that. I'm like, it's all right. He goes, well, let's go have a sandwich, and I'll finish this up later. And he was just this nice 18-year-old young man again. But he just started peppering me with questions. Hey, do you have to wear Oregon stuff when you're on campus? No. Do you have to wear Oregon stuff like here today to show that you're representing Oregon? No. Can you go to parties? Yeah, I can go. Well, what are those like? And it was just this kid in the candy store. And finally he asked me, he goes, what's your goal? Not what are my goals? He was very articulate. And he said, what is your goal? I said, well, I want to I'd love to make the Olympic team. I'd love to do that. And you could just see him gnawing on that one. Okay, that was a bullshit answer, but all right. And then I said, what are your goals? And he's looked at me. He's like, you're not going to do it. And I said, how do you know? You can't run as fast as I do. He said, you don't have to get through me to go through the Olympics. You got to get through your own head. And I said, well, you're 18? He goes, yeah, I was raised well. And I said, okay, well, what are your goals? What are your goals? And it was just this, not cocky, but just very, to some regard, the same way Alberto was, just very confident in what he believed. He said, well, I don't have any goals. I said, well, okay, well, let's keep in touch, Kobe. Let me know how that works out for you. And he said, I have a goal. I'm going to be the best basketball player to ever play this game. That's my goal. Now, I think Jordan's the best. But at 18 years old, he had this singular focus, and it wasn't goals. It was, this is what I'm going to be. And I walked away from that too young to understand the magnitude of who he was. But I'm trying to run a 4-minute mile. I'm chasing skirts on campus. I'm trying to be the cool guy to show up at parties. Just follow your discipline to get to where you want to be. And of course I didn't. I didn't make the Olympic team because I was too, I think if I was on a psychologist's couch, I was too busy trying to cover those wounds of being accused by a girl. I dated a cheerleader on campus specifically because I wanted everyone on campus to know that I was with a cheerleader, because that means that I'm a safe guy. But Kobe was so incredibly just focused, and he could turn that thing on and off in a heartbeat. When Tiger Woods golfed at Stanford, I got to go with him on an 18-hole practice round before the Pac-10 championships. With him. And this is crazy. This is Tiger Woods. He's the next guy, and he's got his little Tiger Club head, and he's got all of his Stanford stuff. And I don't know if he's doing 9 or 18 holes. So we get to the 9th hole, and he's getting out his putter, and it's just a practice round. Gets out his putter, and I said, hey, Tiger, can I get a picture with you before we're done here? He turns around, he goes, I'm playing 18 today. I said, okay, I'll wait. He goes, yeah, you will wait. I said, well, all right. And so he plays another 9 holes, and on the 18th hole, he turns to me and he goes, you want that fucking picture now? I said, yeah, I'd love it. I'd love it. And he said, I'm going to tell you something about the difference between me and you. And, we didn't have a lot of interaction, but it was small talk, and we're talking about track. We're talking about all sorts of stuff. But at the end, he was going to give it to me. He said, there's something different about me and you. I said, what's that? He said, you hung on. I was only going to play 9 holes today, but you hung on to get a picture with me. I said, yeah, I'm glad to do it. He goes, I used that so I could get 9 more holes of practice because I just wanted to wait you out. I didn't want you to get what you wanted when you wanted it. This kid's 18. He's like, I didn't want you to get what you wanted when you wanted it. So I was going to make you wait for it. But the difference is I just got better during the next 2 hours that I was playing. Okay, cool. Can I get the picture? Yeah, get the fucking picture and get out of here. It's like, whoa. He just, again, they can turn it on, and they're just made differently. They're just made differently.
Yeah, I guess you need to be at that level.
I don't think you get to that level if you don't have it.
I mean, the saddest thing that I see about him, though, is he turned down that $1 billion to play with Liv, and then
right,
and then he's still playing with Liv. That's just mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's again, I think those people never get to that level without that attitude.
Yeah.
But what are they Of course, we get to enjoy that, but what are they giving up for it? You know, relationships or
Yeah, it's always got to be a trade-off.
who knows?
I mean,
Yeah,
that's the thing, and I'll take it down to an amateur level. A lot of us want to run certain times in the marathon or do whatever, and you have to say, okay, how do you balance the training with maybe going out with your friends and enjoying a beverage, or maybe choosing a night of relaxation over staying, getting that second workout in or something like that. And as much as I admire some of the people that can be so gifted and disciplined to get to that next level, at the same time, it's like, you're right. It's like, are you enjoying the journey, or are you just enjoying the result? And the result is, to me, is can be quickly fleeting. Like I'm sure that like you're proud of your fastest mile time, but you're also like, once it's gone, you're like, okay, I know at a certain point, you're not going to get back to that mile time. And so you kind of have to hold on to it. And it's the same thing with marathoning or anything like that. Like, okay, you hit the time. And for a lot of us, you're not going to go to the Olympics. So now what? So
it's like
that is that life
Brett
choice.
Favre, Yeah. When Brett Favre won his Super Bowl, he chased it for years. And he finally is holding that Lombardi trophy and mouthing something, not audible to anybody, just to himself, just looking at it. And an announcer asked him, said, hey, what'd you say to the trophy? He said, I've been chasing this thing so long, I just looked at it and said, this is it? This is the feeling that I've been searching for, and this is it? I was expecting so much more, and I'm more empty today. This is 10 minutes after he won, I'm more empty today than I ever have been, because I've been chasing this thing that I thought would fulfill me. And it's just this thing. It's just this time, to your point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting down on time here, so I want to obviously talk about that book that's in the background right there, The Long Run.
Yeah.
So talk to us
Here it is.
about what that is all about, and I'm sure we talked maybe some of the stories today.
Yeah, it's kind of a story of Forrest Gump on some medication, probably. I've lived a pretty interesting life. I've met a lot of awesome people. But it's a running book. It's got some awesome running stories in there, some incredible lessons I've learned through running. But it's also a personal development book, and kind of how I found myself in the long run, how I found myself through a lot of the mentors I've had, some good, some not so good. I met a lot of awesome people after high school, and there were also some amazing people during high school. But it's a fun story, and I'm excited for people to hear it. It's out on Audible, and it's on
That's
Amazon.
my jam. I'll be getting it on Audible. So, but in this book, obviously, it's somewhat of a look back and a narrative going back and coming up to where you are now. Do you feel like there's a certain athlete or person that will get the most out of this book, or do you think that depending on where you are in your life, you'll get different meanings from it?
That's a good question. I think it's one of those choose your own adventure books. You read it when you're going through something that's going to feel a certain way. You read it when you're on top of the world. You're going to view it in a way that removes, okay, if you're going through a tough time, you're going to realize you're not alone, and you're going to realize there's a lot of people around you that are willing and wanting to help you. And I think that's, in my darkest times, I've never thought anyone wanted to help me. And I think if you're on top of the world, feeling good, reading this book, all of your excuses about you don't have time or you don't have any influence are going to be eradicated. And it's now your turn to go help somebody. One of the, I'm going to tell a quick story, but when I was in my 5th year of high school, when the allegations came out and I got arrested, I was kicked out of high school. So not only am I going to high school for a 5th year, I'm now kicked out of school and expelled. So my Oregon dream is gone. There was a guy, Steve, that called me, and he was a junior. I didn't know Steve. I'd seen him around school, and I'm thinking, okay, he's just baiting me, wanting information so he can go gossip to everybody else. And at the end of the conversation, he said, Ben, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. And I said, yeah, bullshit. I'll see you around the halls, but I can't go back to school. And it was just that comment. And he goes, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, I got kicked out of school. I can't go back. And he goes, man, I got to just be honest with you. When you know someone really well, it's a hard phone call to make because you don't know what to say. The reason I'm calling you is because I don't know you that well, but you've always been nice to me. And so I just thought it would be the nice thing to do. Well, that conversation started with, he hung up, called my house back, and he and my brother got 20 people together to go to my hearing 2 days later, where the judge said, you have these 20 people here supporting you, and I don't see any reason why you should be kicked out of school. And so I got to go back, and I don't know where I'd be today without Steve calling me and just being a good human,
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, you also got me with the Choose Your Own Adventure book because that puts a date on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what that means.
I use good luck.
Yeah, I know what that means. But yeah, Encyclopedia Brown, I was down. But
exactly.
Yeah.
We're brothers, I think.
Yeah. So that goes back away. But yeah, that's interesting. It is important for us to find that group of people. And I think that you started with that a little bit with your 5 board members and your different areas of life that you're interested in. And I think that would be the takeaway from this is, you got the stories, you got the impressive people that you can, tell stories about. But the most important people are probably going to be those people that were the ones that maybe helped you get through life. And maybe that's the lesson for people is to find those people that will have your back, who will help you through the tough times, and maybe who can see the worst in you and still have your back and still be there for you. So, that's hopefully, I'm going to think that maybe that's something you can pull from the pages as well.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I've met incredible people, and I've gone back to the same prison I was supposed to end up in. And I've run with inmates there. Some have become, one in particular has become a dear friend of mine when he got out. But just give back, and try to get creative in how you do it with other people.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a great message and probably a perfect one to end on. So, Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It was very fun to hear some of those stories and also just get to know you a little bit better. And so, yeah, if you guys want to learn more, you can go pick up his book, The Long Run.
Yes. And if you go to benandrews.com/gift, I will give you the first chapter either on Audible or old school download.
Nice.
Awesome. Cool.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.